Well, the U.S. president is demanding a Justice Department investigation after unleashing a barrage of criticism of the FBI. His call follows reports the FBI used a confidential source to talk to Trump campaign aides about possible ties to Russia.
So the political implications, the legal implications, let's try and untangle all of this with political analyst Peter Mathews, also with criminal defense attorney Troy Slayton. Peter, first to you. The president wants an investigation into those who are investigating him. Now, he's concerned that perhaps his campaign was spied on for political reasons. Does he have good grounds to believe that?
We don't really know that yet. We're going to have to wait for some of this investigation that was ordered by him and by Rod Rosenstein for the Inspector General to go through and look at it more carefully. Then we'll know more whether or not there was grounds for it. It's also just a political ploy for Trump to divert attention from the fact that his campaign is being investigated, and so is he. And so I think that's a very good possibility as well. We've got to just wait a little bit more to see what happens tomorrow. And the letter that he sends sends out tomorrow, the content of the letter will make a lot of difference.
About that letter, Troy, Donald Trump is going to officially ask the Department of Justice on Monday to begin this new investigation into the investigation. Is he allowed to do that? Can he tell the Department of Justice what to do and what to investigate?
Well, if you ascribe to the theory of the unitary executive, then he absolutely does. The Department of Justice is in the executive branch, for which the president is the chief of that co-equal branch of government. So the president, having the power to hire and fire the attorney general, the FBI director, he can, essentially, under that theory, direct any investigation.
So it's not interference. Because usually it is said that the Department of Justice needs to be independent, including independent of the president, from the president.
Yes. So for the last 30, 40 years, even a little bit longer, the White House has taken the position that the Department of Justice is to operate independently. However, the president is entitled to be kept abreast of any investigations if he wants to.
Peter, Donald Trump wants to know whether the investigation of his campaign was politically motivated, but don't we already have a pretty good idea of how that investigation began? I mean, the FBI was informed by foreign diplomats, we found out, of a conversation that they'd had with a Trump campaign staffer, and that set off alarm bells for them, and then they applied for a FISA warrant, and so that they could wiretap that particular former Trump campaign staffer. So there are objective elements that sent the FBI looking into this.
Absolutely, and those elements were pretty real. You know, this former advisor, he was actually a foreign policy advisor for President Trump, and he had lots of ties to Russia, for example. And here's the thing, though, about the internal unitary executive. The Justice Department is a cabinet department, obviously, but the FBI is under the cabinet. It's in the Justice Department. It has to have some independence, or you'll have just a mockery, because it's investigating the president himself and his campaign. How can you have the president in charge of his own investigation? That's what you're talking about when you talk about unitary executive. I think there has to be some checks and balances within the executive branch itself in that sense. So I don't quite agree with the unitary executive theory and just say that obviates any need for the FBI to be independent or Mr. Mueller to be independent of the president. The president cannot control everything in the executive branch, especially if he's being investigated and if his particular campaign is being investigated.
Troy, I'd like you to cast your lawyer's eyes for me on the Deputy Attorney General's statement, Rod Rosenstein. He said, if anyone did infiltrate or surveil participants in a presidential campaign for inappropriate purposes, we need to know about it and take appropriate action. What does it look like to me? Because to me, it looks very carefully crafted.
Well, certainly. Look, if the Obama administration implanted informants into the campaign of an opposing party, that would be a huge scandal if they did it for some sort of political gain. So if there was some sort of evidence that that was occurring, it should certainly be investigated. The whole purpose of the special counsel investigation is to look at interference in the campaign, whether it be from the Russians. Now we're hearing information that Gulf states may have been trying to exert influence. So we're trying to figure out what exactly happened. And certainly, if that did happen by the current administration, meaning the Obama administration during the campaign, to look into and try and affect the campaign of the opposing party, that would be a huge scandal, and we definitely need to know about it.
And Peter, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says he wants to know what the source reveals, what that FBI source revealed in the investigation, because they are convinced it is going to clear Donald Trump. That sounds like A, good lawyering, and B, good politics.
It does, and I guess that's what they're grasping onto, because other things don't look quite bleak for the president this time in the investigation. I do agree with Troy, though, that it needs to be known whether or not there was any kind of political influence in that particular counterintelligence operation. Was it political or counterintelligence? So that's very important that we get to the bottom of that. However, I think that should not derail the major investigation, which is to see whether or not there was any interference from foreign countries, not just Russia. Now it looks like possibly UAE and Saudi Arabia might have been involved. Their representatives met with Trump Jr., I believe. So that's really a problem there, and that has to be focused on. And this shouldn't be a distraction, but on the other hand, I do believe the rule of law does call for any kind of untoward activity to be exposed if it was political. I agree with Troy on that one.
Giuliani also says that Mueller will wrap up the Russia investigation by September 1st, provided the president sits down for an interview and answers his questions. Troy, what do you make of that?
Well, that is the huge issue swirling around the legal and political front in Washington and all over the country, is whether or not the president is going to sit down for an interview with special counsel Mueller. And if he refuses to do that, whether or not the special counsel will subpoena him, and whether or not the special counsel has the power to subpoena him. We're in uncharted territory here. And there's a long-standing Justice Department memo that says that a sitting president can't be indicted. So Rudy Giuliani takes the position that, well, if the president can't be indicted, then he can't be subpoenaed to testify before Mueller's grand jury. And that will be an ultimate question. And if the president is subpoenaed and refuses to comply with that subpoena, it's going to go up to the Supreme Court, and this is going to go well past September if that's the case.
All right, Troy Slayton, Peter Mathews, thank you very much for answering our questions. And of course, we look ahead to Monday, find out how exactly the president is going to word his request to the Department of Justice that they start looking into the investigation that is itself looking into the president, his campaign, and potential Russian meddling in the election. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.